Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Beneath Your Skin. This is Gaia, still in a food coma. Hello, my dear. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think food coma is starting to subside, and I'm thinking, I've got some leftovers that I could munch on now.
Did you say leftover? Interesting word. Today, we are going to talk about a movie called The Cult of Chucky. Yes, people. After the seed and the cars, we still have the cult. Because why not? I mean, Chucky is a serial killer, and like any other serial killer worthy of his name, he got a cult. Why not? Perhaps because he is a killing doll?
Yeah.
Well, now, people, who are you to judge? If I want to create a cult for a killing doll, I'm free to create a cult for a killing doll.
I expect you to create the cult of Brad Dourif at this point. But
Yes, yes. Well, I already talked to my lawyers. Could totally found and create and be the president and CEO of Brad Dourif's cult because he is amazing and he deserves to have a cult.
yeah, and he's fantastic in this film. I've got to admit that this was not what I was expecting when I read the title Cult of Chucky. Because I don't read the movie descriptions for these, I just kind of go into them. And I was expecting there to be some weird cult worshipping Chucky to bring him back and cause mayhem in another way. I was really expecting that. I can't believe how wrong I got it and how batshit they made it. And then I should remember this is the franchise that gave us freaking Seed of Chucky. I should have expected it to go left field. Expectations divert over here.
Exactly, exactly. And in this one, I love the opening credits. Once again, we have opening credits that gives us a story. They tell us a story. What happened to Nique after she was arrested? Where is she now? And then we have that brutal and traumatic scene in which Nique is being tortured with shock therapy because yes, people, I think that was torture and had
Yeah.
nothing to do with actually curing mental illness at all. I think it was torture, and I think people doing that to other people were sadistic bastards. The two doctors there, they are sadistic. I mean, come on, the one who pins her with a huge pin to show that she can't walk and she doesn't have any sensitivity on her feet and leg. That wasn't nice, but yeah, very sadistic and very brutal as a scene. And then I have a question. I never ever was in a mental hospital, but why all that white? I mean, does it really help people with mental illness issues, or it's just another way to drive them crazy? Because I can admit I would be very bothered by all that whiteness around me, and I have a migraine. Can you imagine the light reflected on all that white?
Okay, so it's similar to why special needs schools and the environment I work in has clean walls. You can have stuff on them, but you have to choose your color palettes right. Obviously, in this one, they make it very white so that the light can shine off it, so it seems very invasive. Normally, you would have a light warm color like a light yellow or a kind of a warm green, but you'd have it quite sterile so that the environment didn't overstimulate you or trigger you. But obviously, in this one, because you get a lot of cream colored like wards. I know this sounds like I spent a lot of time in like mental psych wards and stuff. It's not that. My mum used to work in a hospital and I used to walk past certain areas, and so you just know those kind of environments. But it's very similar to the special needs world, of which you keep the colors muted, neutral, to stop them overstimulating your brain, like being visually harmful that could trigger something, so that your brain doesn't go woo, so your brain can just stay calm and mellowed. That harsh white is done purposely for us, the viewer, to make us go, oh my god, that's so white and so harsh. So we can kind of understand that this is a harsh environment without it being all like, I don't know, bright red, which wouldn't make any sense for like.
And I can understand the need to keep the brain calm, but really, me being a person who has migraines, I can assure you that white would trigger me so badly.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand why they wanted to recreate something so harsh, but it was hard to look.
Yeah. And I think also the purpose of it is that the people running this institute were actually all dicks, so they would probably use that colour scheme actually to upset their patients more. It was all little choices like that, just to kind of make the world feel more lived in.
Didn't like the psychiatrist.
An understatement.
Also, Andy finally has lost it.
Like, oh, well done, movie. Thank you. And they made him batshit, and like his best friend is still a freaking Chucky head.
Yes, and he turned into a torturer. But what the hell we did expect from him? I mean, he was hunted down by a killing doll since he was 6 years old. So, yes, he has lost it and he has the right to lose it. And then we realize he went to the same psychiatrist that has now Nique under his care. And of course, the psychiatrist didn't even believe him. And he had Chucky's head and used a blowtorch to torture him. And no, still nothing. It's still easier to believe that Chucky is a very normal doll and Andy is batshit crazy. And it's still easier to believe that Chucky is a perfectly normal doll and Nique is batshit crazy. And in the end, when he dies, I mean, it was a liberation. Someone so stupid and so cruel and so sadistic doesn't have any right to stay alive.
Yeah. I did love the fact that it took like 2 attempts to kill off the psychiatrist, and the fact that like Chucky himself was like, I just can't with this guy. Like, I just can't. Like, he's a killer doll that gets off like murdering people, but he's not manipulative, and like he's not that kind of evil. He's evil. He wears it on his sleeve. He likes a big knife and to stab people that annoy him. He doesn't want to like, hypnotize and sexually abuse people. He doesn't want to play mind games. He's not pretending he's a good person and abusing his power. He's just like, I stab things, I am killer doll.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm proud of myself. Also, I really have enjoyed that scene in which Chucky is trying to make Angela understand that he is real. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. I sometimes see things that aren't there, and sometimes I also hear voice. No, you don't hear voices. I called you at the phone. No, you didn't. That was a masterpiece. That was amazing. It twisted the trope of no one is going to believe this really happened. And poor Chucky was standing there trying to make Angela understand that, yes, this really is happening. And she was like, no, it's all in my mind. Poor Chucky was so frustrated. And he was like, okay, I will be back later. Stay there.
I love the fact he was so frustrated. He's like, I don't even have the urge to kill you. You're just annoying me. I've got better things to go do. I'm going to try and find someone who thinks I'm here. Putting him in a mental institute was one of the best places, because every film you're like, these people are just going to end up in mental institutes. So he ends up there and people are treating him like he's real or not real, like imaginary and real, or that like they're child. And he's just like, these people are more batshit than he. At least because he says Chucky wears it on his sleeve. He knows who he is. These people he just can't with. He's just like, I don't get these people. I do love the line that there's so many little lines in this, like. It's when the cult get together and discussing things, and one of them's like complaining about something, and one of the other Chuckies is just like, "Well, at least you got some titty today," and it's just like because one woman decides that Chucky's her baby and is like breastfeeding him, and it's just like. Oh, but what was great was the fact that this film kind of skirted the line between that kind of black humor, like that trash, that silliness, but also had that more realistic, subtle backbone. So it was kind of like the series has evolved. So while Curse was too serious and Seed of Chucky was too like batshit, this one managed to blend it where parts of it were like creepy and serious and realistic and more kind of like tonally aware, and other parts are like that's just hilarious. And the fact is, Chucky himself is funny. He has a great sense of humour and great one-lines. And they allowed him to have all of that in this one. And he knows the absurdity of the situations he's in and the absurdity of what he is. But now he's come to terms with that, and he can be himself completely, even in such like a serious and kind of more practical setting. So it didn't have to go as batshit, but it still worked. And it was just like, I'm enjoying this. This has got the tone really kind of like well put together.
Yes, it was. The only thing is the way they tear the carpet from under your feet and you fell on your ass, because at some point there are so many Chucky and he's
Yes.
in so many dolls and bodies, and you are like, wait a moment, how is this possible? What the hell is happening? And then you find out that he consulted the Voodoo for Dummies online this time, not the book, the online version. And he found a way to possess more dolls and more people at the same time. And you are like a little bit, no, this is not how it works. But you know what? I am enjoying the movie, so I won't think about that too deeply. And then, of course, another movie that is LGBT friendly. Yeah, yeah. And this time, Chucky possesses Nique, and he makes out they, I don't know, with Tiffany.
Yeah, I was
And
like, oh, hello.
is and hello, and his line is very fun. Oh, now this is different. Yes, yes. Probably kissing a woman in another woman body. Yeah, it could be a little bit different. But really, really, you say this is different? You fucked her when both of you were dolls. And you probably fucked her when she was a woman and you were still a doll. So honestly, Chucky, I don't think you have very much room to talk about things being different.
No.
Just saying.
Yeah, it was weird that the twist that made it the Cult of Chucky was literally that they were all Chuckies and they were basically just a cult of Chuckies. Like when they introduced another one, I was just like, is there more than one doll going on? Because something's not right. And then and it all came together and you're kind of like, this is weird, but I really like seeing the Chuckies all talking to each other. And I love how pro they are Chucky's ginger hair. Like the one that were like, yeah, you've had the worst day was the one that had his hair cut. And that they agree of all the shit that had happened to them, he had it worse because someone cut his hair. And I'm like, oh, he's proud to be ginger. As someone who likes ginger, it's like my dad was a ginger. And gingers get erased from everything. Or gingers are automatically thought of as evil. And I know Chucky doesn't really help with the whole all gingers are evil, but I'm like, more gingers and things. But it's like this had ginger representation, this has same-sex and LGBT relationships, because one of the orderlies also mentions that he's married to another man, and it also
it was the nurse,
Carlos. Yes. Yeah, that was it. And I was like, oh, and it also has disability representation, and I'm just like, this film's going quite well with its representation. I didn't expect this from the Child's Play franchise, and yeah, it was going a bit batshit with all the various Chuckies and the soul jumping and I'm in you. But I liked that. And then they brought back Jennifer Tilly, and she's so Jennifer Tilly. I just love the like, you, you look like, you look a lot like Jennifer Tilly. She goes, yeah, I get that a lot. And it's just like, oh, I love it. A little bit of meta humour. And the fact that she's still wandering around being batshit. And it just amused me.
And she was that stain of color that you are never going to forget, because she was all dressed in red
Yes.
when she met Nique, and that was perfect. It was the opposite of all that white and black suite of the psychiatrist. She was herself. She was perfect as she was.
Yeah.
But yes, you know, guys, this is the moment I wax poetry about Brad Dourif. Because, come on, three Chucky's
Yeah.
dolls and all of them talking to each other with Brad Dourif's voice. Oh my god! Oh my god! That scene was
Yeah.
so perfect, and I was in love. So yes, I started the cult of Brad Dourif.
it was
Please
it was
join
so
me.
good. It's the humour and the one lines and the quips and like the you got to suck tit and yeah you've had a bad day and then it was when they were found and it was just like what is going on here and you're just like oh Jesus there's a lot of Chuckies running around but yeah I can
Yeah,
very much imagine that you started this and you were the founder you know
yeah, absolutely. That's me. I take all the blame, and I'm proud of this. And do we want to talk about the very last scene?
And it's like, oh, she's doing it as well. She's transferring her soul. They've just basically got nuts and be like, we'll have dolls. We'll just put our souls in other people. It'll be great. Yeah, I loved her turning up at the end. And she was like, oh, yeah, it's a classic. And I'm like, yes, a classic line. She stabs him with a knife and it's just like, sometimes you just need a classic. And I'm like, oh, I love it when they understand where they've come from and they've matured since like some of the more wacky shit, but it was still fun. And I have to admit that I was happy with Andy's fate. I know it feels a bit like, oh, he's a middle-aged man and he's gone a bit mental and oh dear, he's not going to get his revenge and in fact he's going to be locked in a psych ward now. But in all honesty, like what else was going to happen to him?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And even if, for whatever reason, he was able to get rid of Chucky for good, that would end his own life too, because Andy and Chucky are so deeply twisted with each other that one cannot exist without the other. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I like this. Now I have to just find more followers for my cult, and
Yeah.
we can go and conquer the world.
Yes. Well, the exciting thing is obviously it got postponed because of the current state of affairs, which is but the TV series, which was meant to be coming out next year, but I don't know if it's still on track. But yeah, and I think it's just called Chucky, the TV series, and it's got Brad Dourif, it's got Jennifer Tilly, and apparently they're saying that Glenn and Glenda will make a comeback. They'll
Yes!
be in it somewhere, and I'm just like, just give it all to me. Give me all the Chuckies and all the Tiffanys. Give me the Glens and the Glendas. Just give it all to me, and all it's just wonderful joy. I don't know anything else about the plot, but I'm like, the minute the Child's Play series comes out, I am there in a heartbeat.
Oh yes, and you had me when you told me Brad Dourif is in this. So yeah, perfect.
And it's
I
still
don't care
it's
about
still
I
Don
don't care about
Mancini.
anything else. It got Brad Dourif, so it got
Yeah,
me too.
yeah, he's happily reprising his role. Don Mancini is still like the writer, the creator of it, so it's still his vision, which is like I'm very excited for it, especially now that we've watched all the movies, and I'm just like I fell in love with them every little bit more. Although, yeah,
Yeah,
I strangely became a Tiffany fan, which I don't know why, but there's just something about her I adore.
yeah, yeah. I like her as a doll. I like her as the actress, but Yeah, you know where my
Yeah.
heart is. And I'm so happy. And then, of course, we are going to talk about the series whenever it's going to come out
Yes,
and we
most
can
definitely.
watch it. But we aren't going to talk about it in our podcast. So, people, be ready because we are not done with the Chucky franchise
No,
yet.
not yet.
If Zoe doesn't have anything else to say,
Nope, not for me.
thank you for listening. If you want to say hi, come looking for us on our Facebook page, Beneath Your Skin, or on Twitter at beneath_your. And you can listen to us on Pinecast and Spotify. Thank you for listening and bye bye.
Always a pleasure, Gaia. I can't wait for the series to come out and we can review that and fangirl away. But for now, byes byes.